our conversations about to have in the studio. Time check 8:44. Before we jump into anything though, let me tell you real quickly that Hollywood, Bollywood and Nollywood and quality Ghanaian movies come alive on the big screens at the Silverbed Cinemas. Now, get the very best in entertainment you deserve. Create and share amazing memories with the ones you truly love with a movie treat at Silverbed Cinemas, West Hills Mall and Accra Mall. Now, showing in the cinemas, you'd find John Wick Part 4, the Super Mario Brothers, the movie, Creed Part 3, Air, Taste of Sin, Renfield, and The Pope's Exorcist. All you have to do if you want more information is just visit the website. It's silverbedcinemas.com/West Hills or Accra. For showing times, you can also call 0544 310 140 or 059 399 7086. Now, reason why we're jamming to that Kiss Daniel song is because this morning we are honored to have one of the music executives or the people who are behind the production or involved, with the making of brands like Kiss Daniels and on. As we're live in the studio this morning, and she is none other than the person, Foza Doza, if I can say Foza Doza or Foza Doza.
Foza billions.
Now, she is an entertainment lawyer as well. She's grown in this field, become one of the biggest entertainment lawyers and music execs on the continent. And this morning, she's in the studio with us, right here on Culture Daily. Welcome to the studio, Foza.
Thank you. After that intro, I have to bring up my momo.
Yeah, to take some cash out, paying the bills for it. But welcome to Ghana. What brings you to town, though?
So Ghana is my second home.
Oh.
It's like I do business in Ghana. But this time I came.
Which business would that be?
I mean, it's like, so I used to work with a company, and I used to head a company that is involved in trying to raise funds for artists. But I recently because I've been working for like 10 years, right? So I just recently took a break, like taking a personal break this year.
Wow.
So, but the name of the company is Digital Music Commerce and Exchange Limited.
Okay.
So it's set up in Ghana. So I've been in Ghana like almost every year. I come to Ghana like 2 weeks, 1 week, just to set grounds and everything. So we have an office here in Ghana, but this time I came on a personal break, and also to then Abongo, my friend, was like, "Nah, you have to talk. There's so many issues you have to talk about, and we have to talk to the Ghanaian people about." So I was like, "All right,
let's
talk."
But I mean, since you mentioned establishing a business in Ghana, I mean, I know Nigeria would have more numbers, a lot more musicians. I mean, the whole country is probably one state in Nigeria. Any reason why you set up this business in Ghana?
So for the thing is like, one of the I'm a Pan-Africanist, right?
Okay.
And I believe that Ghana and Nigeria are the two people that if we don't fix our countries or our industry, the whole continent is, I can't curse, but the whole continent really needs us to fix a lot of things because Nigeria, they call us giant of Africa, right? And that's because we're very bullish. We're very we get things done. The closest to us would be Ghanaians, right? So it's and those two part of the Anglo-Saxon countries in Africa. So it's very important that we get our stuff together, so that the whole continent can benefit from the hype. Because right now we have so much hype around the music, but the business is not. So there's so much money being made, but it's not being made in the continent. So we're seeing very rubbish deals. Not rubbish deals, but when you look at the numbers that we're creating, that's the kind of deals that will come here. So it's worrisome because in the next 10 years, we will go back to square one if we don't fix it now. So Ghana is and we're very similar in laws. So it's like, it's easier to come have a conversation here in Ghana, form a force, then start having conversations across Africa.
I mean, we've been fighting about Jollof for a very long time, but we'll talk Jollof at 9:59. But let's just for the purpose of those who are new to you, if I can say that, give us a bit background of yourself. Because you've come from, and the reason we played that Kiss Daniels video was because you were involved in, in that video. Might even give us more insights into that.
Yeah. So I'm also promoting my book. It's called So Far So Foza. It's a personal memoir about my life and kind of like my journey. And the reason I wrote, I turned 30 this year, and everybody was like, "Oh, why are you writing a book? It's 50-year-olds that write books. Why are you writing a book?" I'm like, well, first of all, who wrote that rule? Nobody wrote that rule. You can do anything you want to do. The same way you can sing any song you want to sing. So why are you stopping me from writing a book? But anyways, for me, it was when I was coming up, I didn't have role models. I didn't have people that I could read their stories and be encouraged. What I was reading Bill Gates. I was reading stories from Bob Iger, like guys, white guys over there. White guys don't deal with NEPA problems. They don't deal with life problems. They don't deal with lack of funding as such. Our problems in Africa are peculiar. And when you ask an African man, how did you make money? It's good. Why? Like, really, brother, why? Like, tell us the hustle you went through, right? So
show us the way.
Show us the way. So for me, it was like, and particularly because I'm a woman, and women in this industry, it's kind of really hard for us, right? So for me, it was very important that I document every 10 years of my life and literally very openly and show that, look, this was what I had to do, this was what I had to sacrifice, these were the mistakes I made, these were the things that affected me along the way. So I wrote about like a lot of my journey. And talking about, I came into the industry when I was 17, I think. And I started managing a group of 7 boys from school. Uni. I went to uni in Nigeria.
You're not even 18.
Oh yeah.
You haven't even given the pass to get out of the house. Parties.
And it was a disastrous journey because
you were managing a group of artists on campus.
7 boys. I was trying to be like, oh, we're going to be the greatest. My boys were just looking for how to fornicate. So, so for me, I started meeting people, and immediately I got out of school. When I finished uni, someone said, oh, some people are looking for a road manager at Aristocrat Records. And Aristocrat Records was the record label for Burna Boy then. So I joined Aristocrat Records, and I worked on Burna Boy's first album. I worked with Chi, she's a gospel artist. I worked with Ozone, Majid, a number of people. Shout out to PD Picasso. Literally taught me what the business of the industry looked like in practical. Then when I finished, I left because I was going to law school. So I went to law school. As I was in law school, because hustle, I'm from a single parent home, and now me they feed myself. So hustles. My friend said, oh look, G Worldwide is looking for someone to work with. They just signed with this new guy, which was Kiss Daniel. And we started, promoting.
And you were in law school.
Yeah, I was in law school.
The choice I'm not much into law, but let me just find out. So you had the option to study various kinds of law, criminal law, and all that, or you just did it was general.
No. So when you do you only have the time to specialize at master's level, the way it's being taught in Nigeria. I don't know about Ghana, but like in undergrad, you do general law.
Yeah.
In law school, you do the litigation part of law. So you do civil, criminal, property law. You don't do any specialization. Everybody does the same thing. So when you now get out, you want to do masters, you now specialize if you want to. So well, we were not, according to our code, we were not supposed to work, but mine was hungry, man. That's for them. So I started working with Kiss Daniel. I was doing business management. And, we did the first single, the second single, the third single was the Woju remix that we just played. And that was when I made the decision. I was just like, look, if I continued, I had a conversation with Jeezy, that was the record label guy, and I said, look, I have to leave. And he's like, what? We're about to blow up. You've done all this work. And I was like, look, I feel like if I stay here with this, I'm never going to reach my full potential.
Hold on right there. You just said something that has opened, another side of the conversation as to some of the things that, Case Daniel's team or Case Daniel in person may have seen in you to decide that, I think she bears all the characteristics of a good leader to manage my brand. What was that thing?
So I think when you're also younger, there's this hunger so I'm a very detailed person, excellent person in terms of like paperwork. So from then when it wasn't popular in the industry to sign papers and everything, I was always pushing for paper. Even if we're going to pay like DJs or whatever, I make sure everybody wants to sign.
The person that nobody wanted to deal with. Basically.
Yeah, everybody. Nobody really liked me like that because I'm like, you have to sign performance agreements. You have to do this.
Did that translate to your boyfriend as well?
Yeah?
Did that translate to your boyfriend as well when you get into a relationship? Like
Oh yeah, we have to sign agreements. Like when you come
How long is this relationship?
When you come into the relationship, it's like, this is what I'm bringing to the table. This is what you're bringing to the table. This is what I don't like. This is what I like.
Terms and conditions apply.
I like that.
Yeah. All right. Let's go on.
Yeah. So basically, for me and Jizu is a dear friend. It's like, we did the hustle together. So I left because he now told me like I had to pick, like I had to focus, because at that point it was, you can't do so many things again, because I was still working with some other artists, and it was just like, look, you have to give it like 1,000%. And I was like, if I do this, I don't think I'll be the lawyer I want to be. So I said, so we parted ways, like in terms of just about when Would You Remix was blowing up. I left in December that year, and everybody thought I was crazy, but I was just like, yeah, I know what my future says, and it's really not like artist management. So I have so much more to offer. So that's how I left G Worldwide. Then my story just continues like
to
that.
what exactly?
From then I finished school.
Okay.
And I finished law school. Then I got called to the bar. Then I started my law firm.
Okay.
So started my law firm.
At what age?
I started law firm at 20. I finished law school at 19, started law firm at 20. So yeah, that's why I'm taking a 1 year break, because we started the law firm with 25,000 naira, which I think in dollars then would have been less than $100. So we started a business like with, so nice. It was not like it was a rosy, maybe my father gave me land or something. It was like, you make
a real business.
Yeah, you make like $100 today. You share it into 4 so that you could pay for this, you could pay for. So it was like I've been a struggling entrepreneur for like a decade. So last year I was just like, I was already burnt out mentally. I was down. So I was just like, you know what? Let me take time off to rest.
Did entertainment law present something to you that you found an opportunity in, or a gap? Because considering a lawyer, I mean, there are so many, 1,001 other opportunities. Not to say entertainment law doesn't present anything, but so many opportunities to make really big bucks, like really big bucks. Serious criminal cases that they say lawyers lie your way through and get somebody out of jail. And so I want to understand what forced you. Was it because of the background in with what you had been doing previously?
So I come from a family of lawyers. My surname, if you mention it in Nigeria, even to the police, they'll be like, but there's no money to the surname. But I come from a family of lawyers, so, and I talked a lot when I was growing up. So you know that thing, they'll be like, you talk a lot, do law. Oh, you like blood, doctor. Oh, do you? So
stereotypes.
I know, right? So that's why I did law, but I knew that. But for me also, I wrote in my book, I was also studying law so I could deal with my family members, because like there was like a lot of, I was such an angry child because of what happened when my dad died, and I felt like we were very cheated, so I was like, I was going to study law, I'll get that law degree, and I'll deal with everybody that dealt with us in our family. So by the time I got to like 300 level, I was tired already. I was just like, this motivation is not sustainable. And by then, all of them had died. So I was just like, God has already dealt with them, so what do I want to do? So for me, I found intellectual property law, and I did some research. Then I found my mentor, Miss Uduak, and I was just like, okay, I think people can actually make so much money from, and happy birthday to Miss Uduak, by the way.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She's a May baby. And so it's like,
gosh, you make May sound so cool, like May baby.
Yeah, May babies are awesome. Miss Uduak is awesome. So I mean, I looked at her life, and I saw like nobody was doing that in Africa. So she focuses on African, entertainment, but she lives in LA. So there was no one on the continent doing entertainment law. And for me, it's like, so I read this book called Blue Ocean Strategy, and he told me that the fastest way to become, someone that is whatever is like when you find the blue ocean in the midst of the red. So red means that everybody's doing it, but there's always one blue spot in that red, and once you capitalize on that blue spot, you become you become money, rich. And I was like, all right. So I googled a couple of entertainment lawyers, and I was like, these people are rich. It's not like, then I looked at my class, and I was seeing that everybody was, when we all get out, we're going to be fighting for oil and gas, we'll be fighting for, I was just like, I don't have time. Then I did my externship. I saw how lawyers were shouting in court, and I was just like, this is not my life. I'm very funky. I don't like to dress the normal way. I don't like white and black. I was just like, yeah, I'm not a conventional person. So entertainment law looks like it fits me. So that's how I made the decision. Like,
I was just imagining you going to court in your tattered jeans.
It's not. I tried. I really did try. I was just like, every time I'm just like, yeah, I can't do this. Nah, it's not for me.
What were some of the early cases you started dealing with? Because of course you had formed certain you had networked with other people in the industry in Nigeria. But what were some of the early issues you were dealing with?
So we came in.
And this is about 10 years ago, right?
Yeah. So when I came in, I took more of the approach of structure fighting. So I'm not your regular lawyer that just focuses on, one client or whatnot. So when you ask about me, you can't say, oh, this is this person's lawyer. That's not you define me as just Foza the OG, right? Because we've been involved in many fights. So when I came into the industry, Nollywood was using music without paying for it. Producers weren't getting their publishing. So we're part of the people that fought for publishing, right? It's like we fought to ensure that producers started signing split sheets, producers started getting what was worth to them, and started the publishing fight. Also started a lot of standardization of what a typical contract should look like, what a typical negotiation should look like. Been involved in a lot of policy conversations, fighting for the Copyright Act, to be changed, which was just changed this year, after 10 years of fights. But so the issues we're dealing with was nobody wanted to sign agreements. Everybody just thought that the industry was anyhow. But when we started dealing with people, when we take police to arrest you, we drag you, we take your song down, people started behaving. Then we started the SARS Academy. It's a non-profit organization that teaches producers about the business and creative part, started by SARS. And we started that program to be able to train the new set of guys coming in to ensure that they understood the business to a certain extent and how they worked. And that radically changed the industry, right? Because now, like, three of the boys and one girl from the academy, one has been nominated for a Grammy, because he produced for Whiskey. One produced Love One Tintin, the biggest Afrobeat song, one of the biggest Afrobeat songs. And it's like, every day I just sit down and I'm just happy because, if it was like 10 years ago, they will have just produced this and they will just say, the producer, nothing is due to him. But these ones, I know that they are getting their bag and they are chilling. They are able to buy their parents' houses,
Well, before I bring in my friends as well, when do you draw the line between understand the business itself is suffering, the economy itself is suffering, the industry is suffering, so borrowed music to use on someone's in a movie, I don't have budget to pay because there's no investment coming in and as such. Where were you drawing the fine line between understanding these as a lawyer and fighting hard for the money for the person, copyright issues, for the person whose content had been used?
So it's like, for example, like in my Nigeria, they'll come to me and say that they have $200 for Ashake's song. It cannot happen. You cannot get it because you can't get it. However, you can get this other song for $200, right? So that's where we draw the fine line. It's like, but if you come and say you have $5,000 for Ashake's song, we can reach a compromise because the money makes sense. But you can't come and be asking for the number one song on the continent and be telling me you don't have budget. Just cut your coat according to your size. That's how we navigate it. Cut your coat according to your size. Like it's just like when they are teaching us contentment. You are being a non-content person.
I agree. Lenny.
Well, yeah. For that, for all of the years that you've been doing this, right? What would you say has stood out to you on this journey? Because you started young, and then now at this point that you are at, looking back, what is that one thing, or what are those few things, if there are, that stand out to you?
So for me, it's like I wish someone actually told me early on that I wasn't crazy because I was emotional, right? So all through, and they say this a lot to women, right? Oh, you're emotional. Then you see like men acting, and you're like, but
what are you?
But what you're doing is based on emotion. It's just not the emotion of tears, right? You're doing it based on your ego. You're doing it based on you're angry. Those are emotions, right? So coming up in the industry, I was made to feel like my emotions were a toxic thing that I shouldn't feel, that I shouldn't express. But every time I realize that my emotion is why, because naturally, like all my mates, they already have houses, they have cars, they're like living good. Because if I was doing the amount of work in another industry, like I'll be way richer than this. But what we're doing in the industry was sacrificing. Like we sacrifice a lot. Like I can't count the number of times that I do free work for people that I'm supposed to get paid for, right? Because you want to see the industry grow. So it's like, for me, it's like the only reason I can do that is because of I'm passionate about this thing and I'm very emotional about the industry, right?
Is that why we don't have a lot of entertainment lawyers? Because
no, I feel like we don't have
law is difficult, and after going through
I feel
all
like
that,
we don't have a lot of entertainment lawyers because of our educational system. They teach us we've lost critical thinking. So
even at that level, even at law school.
Yeah. We've lost critical thinking as in a whole for African education. So the average lawyer cannot think out of the box. So it's like, because if you're coming to the entertainment industry, it's not the same way you do criminal law or the same way you do. Those are already established. This is, we are building a new structure. So it's like, it's trial and error. You're going, you're constantly reading, you're constantly like, in conversation. And many lawyers are not in a position to think for ourselves like, okay, why is yellow? Because when you're in university, if you question your lecturer, they'll tell you that you're going to fail. They'll tell you A is for God, B is for the devil, C is for Holy Spirit, D is for Satan. Like, do you understand? So it's just like you are put in a position for like 6 years where you can't question anything. So when you come out of law school, you're not going to question anything, especially when someone is giving you money for that you're going to be living on and you're surviving. You can't question that. So I feel like a lot of industries are not developed because a lot of lawyers have not come to the realization that, because we hold the power. Law is the social engineer, right? So law is what, if we go into this industry, like the tech industry, right? And that's why I say, like, lawyers have the propensity to be extremely rich because everybody needs us. Every aspect, a lawyer can function anywhere. But then they teach you in law school, you can do everything. You can't do everything. You're not Jesus Christ. You can't do everything. You have to pick something and be specialized in. The reason I can beat my chest anywhere and stand with any lawyer from the world and have a conversation about entertainment law is because I've spent 10 years doing the same thing. Consistency breeds success. So I'm not talking out of my cap. I'm talking because I know, I've seen all possible scenarios that can happen. In the last 10 years, I've gone through it. It's just now that we're not dealing with NFT and AI. Even at that, we've started dealing with it. You get? So it's like, for me, I wish someone, actually told me my emotions are valid. I also wished, because I had to learn on my own, Now, anybody, you can go for MBA Africa, you can go for this. There's so much learning tools now and it's easier. And also, What else? I wish someone just gave me money, funded me, because entrepreneurship is hard.
Would you say?
Okay, Siri, go ahead.
Would you say being an entertainment lawyer requires some element of entrepreneurship? Because it's like you are trying to raise revenue, you're trying to solve problems, you're trying to create systems.
When the artists are coming
It's
saying,
like the
please,
law.
can you do it for me? You know,
So because there was no, when I was coming up, there was no law firm that was focused on entertainment law. That's why I started my own. Right, and I'm very stubborn. So it's like, I'll go to your law firm. I tried to work at this law firm, and next thing I was doing oil and gas. The next day I was just like, bye. Like, I literally would just drop my resignation because I was like, this is not what I want to do. Right. And before anybody says, oh, because I was not like I was privileged, not like I had food somewhere. It was just like, look, this is what I want to do in my life, because I was convicted already. My spirit already told me that this is what you're supposed to do. So I was just like, anything outside of this, I'm wasting my time. And I don't want to wake up and be sad. I'd rather be broke and be satisfied than be broke and be sad. That's the useless waste of.
So where is it? Where is it now? Is the brokenness gone?
The brokenness is gone. After 10 years, that means you have to check my head.
So you started with $100, brokenness is gone. So where do I rank you now?
Rank me ranked.
Say less. Say less.
Rank me ranked. But now it's because also one of the things, like, entrepreneurship is not for everybody.
At all.
It's not. One of the things, like, when we're coming up, they'll tell you, if you sleep more than 2 hours, you cannot be rich. Shut up. Because when you don't sleep and you don't rest, you have mental breakdowns.
Yeah, and you can't function
You
properly.
can't function well. So sleep. Also when they say, oh, your salary is
the money they give you
to
kill your dreams.
Go and ask MTN guy how much. I saw recently the sheet of the richest paid CEOs in Africa. MTN guys making $850 million a year. Please pay me
How
that.
many entrepreneurs are making that?
Keep me in my slavery. Keep me there.
I wanted to still on making money and making revenue, all that. You know the video we watched, Would You, from Kiss Daniel, right?
Yeah.
Let's look at that period to now. What is the artist revenue landscape like these days from what it were before and what it is now?
So we're still functioning very much below 10% of the capacity of what the continent's entertainment revenue can be.
Give us an estimate to make it easier and simpler for those who are.
So, the highest revenue stream everywhere is live.
Right.
So for us, live, I don't know if I still think we're in the same, in terms of percentage, I can't give you that, but I still feel like I don't think there's been any significant growth, especially on the continent. Outside now, they are doing O2s, the stadiums. So you'd be like maybe a 2% shift. Because if you really look at it, it's just 4 of those artists that have done that. Yeah, right? Yeah. So, and when people try to use, and that's one of the problems I have with investors, they just see Bernard, they see David, they be like, no. The foundation of the industry does not have that capacity to bring the type of investment you want to bring in and the return that you want to. So a lot of what we need in Africa now is development financing, which is like you put that money in, it's not for commercial purpose. It's like you have to build these things so that there's a catalyst of growth.
So that's happens. Like putting in the money and not wanting any.
Yes. So most likely,
grants.
So it's a lot of development financing, from like, your UNs, your United Nations, the governments, those are the type of finances that we need. And they're specific. So to things like, venues.
Like the way FIFA has money for developmental projects in countries. So FIFA will give you money to use the money to develop like maybe community parks.
Centers, exactly.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, so things like, the skate parks, the recreations, the art centers, residency programs, these are things that once you've done that to a certain extent, private investors come in and take it to. So right now, in terms of revenue, we're seeing more foreign direct investments coming in terms of like before COVID, it was projected to be like at 50%. After COVID, You like say the scales fall off everybody's eyes, right? And it was just like the projection went down to 10%. Wow. So now to get like artist investment is extremely hard. Wow. Extremely hard, because the numbers in terms of like what our streaming numbers are saying from the continent is next to nothing.
Wow.
So what are some of these platforms or interventions or ideas that investors can look for to put in their money? Because they're also talking business, and for it to work, yes, we need money to be able to create a certain foundation for ourselves, to build our own structures on, so we can make our own monies. But what are some of these, when you mention investments, where should we put in our monies into?
So first and foremost, the cradle of the industry is publishing, right? And for publishing to work, the CMOs must work. So COSON must work in Nigeria, MCSM must work in Nigeria, GAMRO must work in Ghana, And if you look across Africa, we've been battling with the CMOs for years. So, and what are the things that publishing would need? Like for every place that uses music, that plays music, there has to be a device that reads the music that they use. There has to be royalty software that can sort through. I was talking to a friend from another CMO from Europe, and he said in a quarter they process 173 trillion data sets. You can't, human being cannot process that, right? And the capacity of our CMOs is that a lot of things are still manual. And, one of the problems that we face is that for us to be able to get that software, is that we pay for it, which is like millions, of I think thousands of dollars, which we can't afford, or you wait in line. And last time I checked for Nigeria, I think we're like 300 and something. So in line.
Waiting to secure software that can be able to.
Yeah. And so it's like, if a development agent, if someone is really serious about it, is we get that money to revamp our CMOs. Because this is what it is. The CMO is like is your health insurance. It's your pension for an artist. When you are no longer popping, when you are no longer able to perform, publishing is what pays you, right? So it's that trickles of money every year you get that you just save, right? Which is and that is the foundation of music, because the first set of people that you meet in music are the composers, they're the songwriters, they're the instrumentalists. So those guys have to be compensated before you now move to the recording artists, the performer, and then you now move to the labels. So it's like we need to fix that. And it's been a battle for decades. Like when I came into the industry, we were fighting that battle. So some of us now are now taking it upon ourselves to say, you know what, this has gone on for too long, and we have such amazing music outside. The hype is good, but we're not making this money, and that's why the deals are limited in terms of when we get to the table to negotiate. Also, education. So education more for the business executives, right? It's like in Nigeria, we already have MBA Africa, that's the Music Business Africa, which
Godwin Tom.
Yeah, Godwin Tom, which also extends to Ghana, Malawi, I think Tanzania, Kenya, But it's like we need multiples of that happening, because when you move from what that has now done in the last, because I've been teaching there for the last 4 years, what has that now done is that we've awakened people's minds. People are now looking like, oh, I can do this I can do the business different. Oh, I can use tech here. I can use so it has now gone into catalyst for growth. And, Godwin is one man using his own money to do that. Someone needs to come in and help. For that to scale up, someone needs to come in, and the person cannot come in and say, "Oh, how much are you going to make back?" It has to be like, take this money, because we're expecting that in the next 2 years we have 1,000 people that from Africa that are equipped to handle business. Because what's not happening is that you see the guys from UK that have African background, but they study in the UK taking the jobs, right? Not because they understand the culture, they're just benefiting from the hype. So you see them positioned doing deals that are not necessarily because they care about the continent, but it's just for profit. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's just like
Yeah,
we've done the work.
It's not there.
We're supposed to enjoy it, but because we're not properly positioned, you can't do that. So those are two places: education and the publishing is where that I would love to see a lot of development, financing happen.
Just to go back a little bit on the CMOs bit, the software bit. I know the tech industry in Nigeria is booming, is growing as well. Hasn't there been an attempt or an agenda to develop something locally?
So you can't. The way the publishing CMO works is that I think there's a central one.
Okay.
That because everybody has to plug into one system.
Okay.
Because the world is global and use of music is global. So that's the only way. If they are playing your music in Netherlands, you know that the money will come back to you because that central system is there. What the tech people can fix in Nigeria locally is how we collect here, how we collect locally.
Right.
So it's like when Plus FM plays, how many minutes did that song play? Who are the contributors on that song? When did he play? What time? How many times a year did he play? We still have that problem. We don't have that data set, and also how you account for that data set. So you receive, you guys probably pay like 1 million songs a year. It shouldn't be a human being trying to be like
identify.
Yeah, there should be like a software locally that can just tabulate that and create like a So yeah, that's where the tech people would play in locally. But for the CMO system, I know there's one software that everybody plugs into. So then also helping the local CMOs build their website to be as standard as the other ones. Yes, that's where we also need the tech people to play in.
Well, if you just joined in the convo, Foza Doza live in the studio with us as well, giving us some insights into a very, very critical part of the business. Now you're just taking my mind back and saying that the times I used to rap, man, I should have really taken this business off. I've been a millionaire by now. But of course, the systems were not in place, or even are still not in place, to be able to let the artists make the money they're supposed to be making. It is a very big business. Now you've actually even opened my eyes a bit more, realizing that, look, regardless of the money that we hear artists make, and they're paid.
Some of them are very hyped, though.
They should be making even way more than that.
Oh, yeah.
Because music is food for the soul. Everybody's feeding their soul with music, you can imagine. But before we even continue, every time we eat, food and sugars are trapped between our teeth, leading to tooth decay. That's also another big business to be in. Right? Yeah. Now, brushing your teeth every morning and night with Pepsodent Cavity Fighter gives your teeth the protection they need, leaving you with 10 times stronger teeth. Well, let me prep your question. I see there's something in your mouth coming up. Pepsodent Cavity Fighter is fortified with pro-fluoride and micro-calcium ingredients, sealing tiny and invisible holes in your teeth. Now, this prevents cavities, keeps your teeth strong and mouth healthy. Now, Pepsodent Cavity Fighter, maximum cavity protection 10 times stronger. You're still locked on to Plus 89.9 FM and right here on 3 Music TV for watching us. Throw your questions in. I bet you have things you want to find out, especially people who want to get into music as a business, not as a creative part, a contributor, as an executive. This is an opportune time for you to ask all your questions, Lenny.
Jay. So she made mention of AI and NFTs. In recent times, we've seen how I think Drake. There was a back and forth about Drake and AI. Doing all of that, the songs, the music, and everything. What are some of the steps that you are taking? Because you did mention that you are getting into that as well, right? What are some of the steps you are taking to make sure that, should an AI create some music for an actual artist, they are able to also get that revenue if they are not going to advocate for the song to be pulled down?
So, there's some fight that we leave for the big boys. And there's some fight that... So that, I think Universal and the Sonys and Warner, they've started... Because you're directly touching their economics, there's going to be a conversation. It's kind of like the same way TikTok came in and just obstructed, and TikTok, they've been like, we're not going to pay, we're helping your music, we're not going to pay. Now... If you're using a business page on TikTok, there are some songs you can't use, and sometimes you see you're on Instagram, the song you used 3 years ago has been pulled down, So it's like there are conversations, and this is where like lobbying comes in. And right now, Africa does not have a strong lobby community, to have this conversation on a global scale. So what happens is that you see all the big labels, the big publishers come together and fight every other year and say, look, Instagram must increase the money they pay us, TikTok must increase the money they pay us, That's what lobbying does. So in terms of AI now, there's a lot of intellectual property disputes, that would arise from it. And one of the things that for me that just sparked my interest is that one, African artists have to pay more attention to trademarks, right? To trademark your name, trademark your brand logo, your brand color, your brand design, also in terms of copyright, to pay attention to how global copyright system works, then also find a way to protect voice, right? There's still, I think voice recording used to be protected under copyright, but find like a stronger way to, because that's what it is. The AI guy just picks pieces of all your interviews together and, turns it into a song, creates it as a song. So the question now is that, can we, protect your voice, as a person? Like, how do we do that? So those are the conversations that are coming up in my head that, we should start having, looking into this and having a conversation. But then again, we're still fighting copyright publishing in Africa. Let me focus on that.
still on AI. Many have felt the threats of their jobs being taken away from them. And as an entertainment lawyer, how do you feel about this whole?
Don't worry, AI cannot take my own job. AI cannot take an African entertainment lawyer's job.
That's enough years to live.
Yeah, because like I always say, like Africa always has like maybe 5 years to catch up, or 10 more often. Like the Western world will tell you CD is dead, but we still move CDs. In at least in Nigeria.
Yeah, one is still selling CDs at the mall.
Yeah, because if you look at it, we still use second-hand cars, 1993, 1999, that still have CD slots. CDs will still sell.
Yeah, the markets are not identical.
Yes, thank you very much. So it's like, it will fade out. It wasn't the same numbers we were doing 5 years ago. It will fade out slowly, but there's still a certain market, so you adjust to that. So for me, it's really like, look into the future, study the future, look at what's happening in the present, but also scale it down back to our reality, which is why it's different. Which is why I always advise that even if you have a Western lawyer, you have a local lawyer that understands the nuances of your community. Yeah.
Have you had any interactions where you've had to advise artists or creatives on how to package their content for consumption in this market? Because like off the streaming and CD conversation, a lot of our acts are focused on stream. But a lot of the mass market are not on these DSPs streaming. If I went to Accra Central, the trotros and the taxi drivers there, I doubt they are on Spotify paying $20, $10 a month. So the CD conversation, the cassette conversation, have you ever had any situation that you could share with us where maybe a big artist, whatever, do your streams, but we still need to print 1 million CDs. We still need to get a few cassettes out there. We still need to do some on-the-ground tours, stuff like that.
In terms of like appealing to local, we give them advice, but I don't think anyone has taken that in a while. So the highest they would do is probably just do school tour. But the substitute for that has been Boomplay and Audiomack. So they've played a huge role in onboarding those type of people. Not completely, but they've done it to like maybe 20%. So yeah, that market is still not catered for. So the guys that still benefit from that market and they focus on that in Nigeria, we have the hyper local genres. So like your Fuji music, your high life music, your Akpala music, the really local the natives, genres. They're the ones that still make that effort. and do that model to a certain extent. So they are still very popular. So when you do street carnivals, it's sold out, with the economics according to them. So those ones, they'll pay $5, $2, to attend your show, drink their beer, and take their woman home at the end of the day. It works with their economics. It's not, no, none of them are going to pay for Spotify or Apple.
So, we mentioned the Sonys and Universals and co would have their own bag of headache they deal with, the kind of cases they're dealing with. What are some of the very pertinent cases that come your way with regards to dealing with our local community? The kinds of cases that come to you, entertainment law cases.
So you have issues. We used to have issues like, I paid for the beat, I own it completely, I don't have to pay extra. So there has to be like education of. Then you have the artists who say, they said they spent all this money on me, but I did not blow. I want to leave. Or manager will say, I've spent this money and this guy just wants to fire me. How do I make my money back? We still have a lot of contract violation cases, which is just one person just wakes up and just wants to walk away from the contract, whether you spent money or not. Those are still the very type of cases that we get. In terms of like maybe sampling, you use someone else's music or what it sounds like. Most people never push it all the way to court, but we've had few, that are in court now. It'll probably take another 5 years before we settle it. But yeah, I have like 2 in court right now. I can't talk about it, but like we have 2 that has to do with sampling, using a producer's record without paying them, and because you took it to someone else to recreate, you think you now own it. So those are the type of cases that we deal with essentially. But the most common one is artist wants to leave the person that spends money on them. That's the common one.
After the money has been spent.
On that note, let's take it back 2019. The case Daniel G. Worldwide Entertainment. Were you around at the time?
No, I was not. So I was not involved. I wasn't even the one that drafted the contract that Kiss signed. So I just came in as a manager. So I was not involved in that. But for me, it was because I knew how much was spent. So I have a philosophy of if you spend money, you should see it back. Like you should be paid back. Like that's my philosophy. Because the more people invest and they are not getting their money back, the more money, there's no money for future artists. Because if I tell you, already, I spent 20 million, $100,000, I don't see any power back. Go take your money, go buy land. You are discouraged. You won't do it. So
the land will not run away.
Yeah, because it's just like land will not run away. Your goats, your sheep will not run away. You go kill and chop them. So it's like I just believe that once money has been spent, even if we're not making it in it, because music is such an expensive business. It's so capital intensive and it's such a long-term game. So I always believe that money should be paid back. So when that situation was happening, I was just like, this is so sad because I know how much was spent. And when I was leaving, I know how much was spent.
At the time, you weren't a lawyer, right?
No, I was not a lawyer.
Right. But when you became a lawyer and you looked at it with the legal spectacle, what do you think were, apart from your, philosophy, what were some of the takeaways that you are still seeing in current times that you think people are not paying attention to?
So accounting.
Accounting.
Accounting. So every contract has a clause that says that you must give quarterly accounting or biannual accounting. Because of the pressures of the industry, and also because we come from really not structured industry. So you see like a lot of labels don't have accountants that deal. So you're spending money like on the whim. Like today you can come to 3 Music and you're supposed to go somewhere to perform, and you have to buy shoes on the spot or completely change the look on the spot. If you put that into, if like when you now start fighting and you put that into the expense sheet, the artist will tell you, I did not approve this. But at that point, the clothes was needed, right? So it's like accounting has to be, like every label should have an accountant. And also because now you're dealing with a lot, when you receive your statements from the streaming platform, if let's say you did 20 million streams, at least you're going to have like 100 PDF sheets or Excel sheets to deal with. So it's like, who's going to look at that? It's not the CEO that should look at that. It's not the manager that should look at that. It should be the accountant that should look at that, and say, okay, this is how much you still owe expense. This is your account statement. So because from that, because Daniel, one of the cases, the points case was, you said he didn't receive any accounts and he didn't know what was going on and stuff. But doesn't mean that money was not spent. It just meant that accounting. So yeah, you could argue on that point.
And you mean professional accountants, not just a manager?
So we have entertainment accountants.
Oh, we have entertainment
accountants?
Yes,
because not every accountant that understands the royalty system or the expense or breakdown system. So we have entertainment accountant. At least in Nigeria, I know we have entertainment accountant. I don't know about Ghana.
Okay, help us understand, what is the typical profile of an entertainment accountant like, as opposed to what we all know? Because I was thinking I could just get an accountant, a financial person. And
so the entertainment accountant will work very closely with the entertainment lawyer, because the language of when you see your recording contract, your publishing contract, the way we structure what, some contracts will tell you are being paid prospectively, some contracts will say you're being paid pro rata, some contracts will tell you you're being paid PPD, so there are different languages with different accounting explanations. So the lawyer and the accountant have to work together, in terms of interpreting that. Even when we're negotiating contracts, when I call my accountant and be like, oh, this is what they're saying, how does this translate in terms of numbers, because there are some situations where you have to wait till the money has been made back, different between advance, because we have entertainment has its own definition for advance expenses. So you can't use Oxford Dictionary to define those things. We have our own types of definition for those stuff. So the entertainment accountant works very closely with the lawyer.
Does the lawyer come with the accountant, or the accountant comes with the lawyer? Because this is the first time I'm actually hearing something like this. I don't know if it's a scarce.
It is very scarce
in Africa.
Yeah, it is very scarce. Like in Nigeria, I know of only one, and that was, I had to go and drag my friend from where she was working and say, look, we need, because at the point, I'm very bad with numbers.
Right.
So when I'm negotiating those things, I only know the language, but in terms of interpreting it into numbers, I had to always be calling, how does this, translate? So I had to call her and be like, look, we don't have this in Africa. So we need, if you register for the MBA Africa, you see her there. She teaches classes on entertainment accounting.
Do you think it's one of the key findings you have obviously discovered, or key problems that our artists in Africa have had to really suffer when it comes to the contracts they get?
Yeah.
Apart from getting an entertainment, because often it's, get an entertainment lawyer. But now you've introduced a new element of entertainment accounting. So even if you have an entertainment lawyer, you don't have an entertainment accountant, it's not really a double-edged sword like we think it is.
No, because even when we're dealing with especially when we're dealing with foreign contracts, it's very important you have your entertainment accountant. I'm just a lawyer. Just because I know a lot of things doesn't mean that I know how to do. I hate Excel sheets with my life. So now everybody sends me oh, Foza, let me look at the royalty statement. What am I supposed to look at and do with it? I'm looking at 100 pages of numbers. Why do you think I did law? I hated mathematics, right? So most times I send it to my accountant, and I just you sort out so that we could do the and also when you are dissolving a relationship, we have to settle accounts. I'm not going to do that for you.
Wow.
My own job is when the accountant has given me, I say, okay, how much do you want to pay? How do you pay back? What are we arguing? I take that and I argue. I'm not the one that will sit down with you and say, did he spend this? Did he not spend? How's that my job?
with the it's two entities involved in every contract. What mistakes or what notable choices do the investors also have to look out for when going on? So I want to sign Lenny.
Character.
Every underground artist is humble.
No. So, but you know, that one. See, don't worry. Me too. I've suffered it, but
underground artist, yes, please.
Poverty, poverty makes everybody humble. But I feel as an investor, you need to check and do. Apart from the artist is talented and whatnot, you have to do background check. There are people that know him. There are people that know this. And if nobody knows the person, that should be a red
More
flag for
dangerous,
you. You know. So I can draft the best contract. In fact, I draft the best contract. And now when the problem now come, you now ask yourself, do you want to follow through and drag this? Because when you are, and this goes for managers and investors, and I tell my new investor clients, like, don't put emotions into
the business.
Don't put it. Because it's never, like 99% of the time, it's never worth it. And this, I try to understand it, you know, psychologically, sociology is like, because we come from so much, generally we come from so much poverty as a continent. There's a tendency for us to misbehave. Then you now add the layer of you're a creative person. The average creative person is entitled. Right? They're entitled to, I'm entitled to your attention. I'm entitled to your time. You know, you have to listen to me because, like, I'm good. I'm talented. And I mean, like, I give it to you because when me too, I'm working and people say, Foza, I'm like, oh, okay. Hi, what's up? Yeah. So I can understand. You know, I was telling with someone that I stood on stage of the experience, the one of the biggest concerts, you know, in Africa, and I stood on stage. I went to go and get something on stage when the show was on, and I looked into the crowd, and I was just like, this was, I saw, and I'm like, imagine I'm an artist and I stand up and I tell you, raise your hands up and give
all
Jesus
these thousands of people.
And these people are listening to me. It's very intoxicating.
Yeah.
And they're listening to the fact that what I created is what, come on. Me that I'm just working at Akramo and someone says, Foza! I say, Then you now had money to, but like, I always would say, like, just check character. You can't do enough. You can't take anybody that wants to be a bastard will be a bastard. Right? So one of the things that investors and labels do is they never tell their story. So the artists, because the audience loves them, they come, oh, I'm suffering, I'm hungry, they didn't treat me right, they didn't welcome me, they didn't. Shut up. Did your did your parents invest $300,000 into your career and not see one naira in the space of 3-4 years? Did your parent do that? Did your brother do that? Like,
somebody else done it.
Someone
You're still
did
entitled.
That, you know, and if the person now says, okay, I'm no longer doing, I want my money back, then you now start crying and saying, but like, no, like, let's, and I think that this happens because we don't educate the talents enough to understand how to respect business principles. It's fine if the other party, you no longer like the person, you think the person is whack, fantastic. I don't care. It's just, how much have you spent? Can you prove what you've spent? Pay me my money back. Simple. And it's very important that this character is imbibed in the industry so that other people that come in that want to invest, the first thing I'll ask, like, okay, so who invested in what? What have they made? How have they made it? We can't keep using a sample size of less than 500 for a continent of almost 1 billion. It makes no sense. That's like less than 0.00001 of the ODC. How would any investor look at that research case and be like, oh, I want to put more money inside? Do you understand? So for me, I always tell investors, like, check the character. Someone knows this person. And if they don't know this person and can't vouch for this person, don't go. Because the best, then you now have to spend more money fighting and time. Then there's now the social battle. You can never win against an artist in terms of social PR because the audience automatically think that this is the best thing after sliced bread. So you can never win. You are always the villain. So it's better to go into something with someone that you know that even in his madness would respect the tenets of agreement to say, okay, you're supposed to pay me back this money or whatnot.
You've said a lot of things. This is actually very exciting because, well, prep yourself for this question I want to ask you with regards to the parameters that entertainment lawyers work within. Criminal lawyers, yes, constitution and all those things back you. What parameters does the entertainment lawyer work in? I'm asking you that, but before that, discover a world of innovation, a world of luxury, and a world many of us dream about owning. Now discover a world of Bang and Olufsen, a particularly true brand in the ever-evolving realm of high-end electronics you might love to own. Locate us at our showroom right here in Accra, Ghana, Atlantic Tower, Liberation Road, where each passing day, month and year, a variety of drool-worthy new electronic gadgets ranging from exquisite home theaters, speakers, headphones, television sets, and soundbar products are released. Bang & Olufsen, like no one else. So, let's talk about this borders in which you work within. Because, one, I mean, there are no structures. We have very few entertainment lawyers contributing to creating this, industry. The education, the support, the financial support, all those things are not there. So, on what grounds do you create the laws around, aside from the copyright laws and stuff? On what grounds do you create
policies?
Clauses and stuff for people to work with?
So we do.
Backed by which legal system?
Yeah. So the foundation for us is IP law. So the IP law. So you have copyright and trademark. That's predominantly what we work with in the entertainment industry. The others are like basic contract. Rules of contract. We don't. I mean, there's Labor Act, but we don't really use it like that. But.
So there are no localized, let's say Nigeria, there's no localized, entertainment law constitution that you abide by?
No, we don't. So one of the things we're trying to do now is, I know there's been conversation about policies, creating certain type of policies that direct certain kind of things. I'm half and half about it, because, Africa is peculiar. The interest of the people that do it always very much matter to me. It's like, why are you creating these things? Is it for your own pockets? Which is what we've seen. You see, I think some years back, some film people wanted to put something together, and I realized we've just been talking about music. Film people too. Entertainment law also covers like film, music, theater, TV, art, fashion. So I'm just very specialized in music. That's why we're talking about music. But I think film wanted to start something almost 4 years ago, saying that, for you to be a director, you must have done this, you must have done that. And people were just like, no, why would you, creativity shouldn't be stifled, right? You can put some tenets to the business, but saying that for you to be called a filmmaker, you must have done this, nah. So, we have some policy conversations that we're having, and it's rooted in what the Copyright Act has prescribed. So one of the things we do now is we do a lot of what's obtainable in the industry, what's practical in the industry, and that's how we fashion clauses that work in the agreement. Because there was a time, like, say, for example, I used to include code of conduct in my agreement because it was around that time that I think there was. I think Chocolate City said Brian Will made them lose like an endorsement deal because he was smoking weed, and the brand pulled out. So for us, then it was just like, okay, it should be a code of conduct that says, you can't, join cults, you can't, because cults is criminal, you can't be involved in porn because it's criminal, you can't be smoking weed because it's criminal, so we put those code of conduct in place to just ensure that, look, I know you can do this in your private life, but the moment it becomes public, it's a crime and it affects our business and you go to jail, and so somebody has to be liable. Yeah, so.
I see.
You're allowed to have sex, but just make sure from porn.
I wanted to, okay.
Okay, touch on it before
because I was going to ask you about something that she's very passionate about, still in, on the same tangent, which is the gospel industry. Those who have followed you well enough know that you are very vocal when it comes to the business of the gospel music industry, and I really want to know where your head's at.
Got 10 commandments.
Yeah, I mean, like, let me read.
Are you using that 10 commandments?
Let me read some for you. So,
thou shalt not call.
This is in 2021. Foza says,
my name in vain.
Gospel music genre is doing mad numbers right now and still overlooked. You people calling genres not doing numbers, move, I beg. Okay. Then still in 21, she says, dear gospel artists, please get managers that have sense. How can I be calling 4 times every day? Your manager with emails. I'm calling your manager every day. Your manager with emails and no response on a song clearance for an international production. This is 2021. She says, "Why is the gospel why is the Headies not considering the gospel category? Have they considered it now?"
Nope.
Okay. Someone says, he says, yeah. So I'm just trying to find the other ones. You had a conference earlier this year. You had to do about the gospel music conference, right? Now, one of the key things you talked about is gospel artists charging for their performances. And some say, oh, leave it to God. Oh, it's ministry. Oh, it's you know, and it's a conversation. Are churches, even considering what these gospel artists are doing? And why is it that we haven't had a major label, which is another tweet you put out there? Why we've not had like a major label, like maybe a Universal Music or something, also making our gospel artists superstars? I mean, for Nigeria, we've seen a lot of superstars, Sinach, Moses Bliss, and all that, but we've not seen a lot of them. What really, from what you've seen and experienced, what really is the problem, and how can we find workable solutions?
First of all, let me quickly talk to the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit, do you want me to talk about this?
Guys, it's a bad. I feel like it's.
Man. And it's so painful because I'm a Christian, right? And I believe that one of my mission is to go to the marketplace and shine light, right? So, and it pains me because I'm sitting at the table. I know my guys have numbers, but it's this guys singing about the crassest things that are able to get the numbers, right? Because they're doing the business. And it's simple. It's just they don't do the business. You have the hype, but you're just not doing the business. And it's because there's still a mentality of music is... So there's a mentality in church that music is not... I'm trying to explain that mentality. Like, music is not a gift for the world. That's how the church sees it. So it's like
a gift for the church, not
yes,
for the world.
That's whoever is singing music, like whoever is doing music is Sunday worship.
You're there to amplify the word of God.
Yes, amplify worship. That's it. That's the mentality. That's the original mentality in the Pentecostal churches, in the churches in Africa in general. So now breaking out of that norm to now say, because the same Bible that says that your gift will make room for you.
Right.
You should double your talents. Right. And if singing is the only talent you have, is it that, are you not saying that God made a mistake?
Self-contradiction.
Do you understand? Like, are you saying God made a mistake? Right? It's like, I'm a Christian, but I don't go about saying I'm a Christian lawyer, so I shouldn't. Do you understand? Like, I shouldn't do certain things. You know? So for me, it's the business of it, and that's why you don't really see investment. The way the gospel industry works is that
you're wicked.
I'm
sitting now saying to myself that like the church is forgetting the gospel. And,
because
and there's a young girl. Someone saying that wait, hold on. Do you know that you're singing a song from a creator? Let's talk the numbers, please.
No, because it's like...
Because they pay electricity bill, right?
Yeah.
So they should pay the music.
So let me give you an example, right? I manage a gospel artist. Okay. And where the gospel music, because it's so... There's two sides to it. There's the technical part and there's the spirit side to it. But for you to experience the spirit side to it, you pay a lot of attention to the technical side. So the way you produce the music is not the regular pop. Exactly. Anything can go. You can do you have really... Yeah. Gospel music, the intentionality that goes behind, like the instrumentation, choir, the mixing and mastering. So, I shot and I recorded live an album last year. Total of what I spent was almost like, say, $25,000 just to record. Now I'm looking for money to promote. That's why it has not come out, right? And I've spent another. We have 7 songs. Spent $3,000. So I've spent another like
21,000, yeah.
Yeah, 21K thereabout in mixing and mastering. Because you're mixing each line of the drum, of the sax, of the voice.
Properly.
Of 20 vocalists, of the... And when that comes out, you're not saying that you want me to come and sing. This is now... I manage a gospel female artist. So before we come on stage, Jesus Christ is beautiful. Like, Jesus... See, me, I'm the kind of person that if you see me, you should be like... what's making this guy shine? So when you come and ask me, I'll not tell you God. You say, okay, let me experience your God. Not that I'll come to you and say, believe in God.
Straight.
You know,
Straight.
that's how the gospel for me is. That's my job as a market leader. So like for an artist to climb on stage, looking well put together, looking beautiful, that when you see the beauty like this, you say, Jesus Christ, they create. You go first think that one and I say, let me listen to the music. But if the person is coming up looking like someone that is suffering, you want to look for the person's God.
Right.
You're not going to look for the person's God.
Right.
So now you want me to come and say, for a woman to come first, I first do makeup, I buy clothes, I'll do hair, I'll not climb on stage. You now come and tell me that I should just thank God.
God is watching you.
The Holy Spirit should just bless me.
When God was given the her artist the gift,
voice,
when Foza artists needed what do you call it, inspiration. And
to put them together.
God, don't worry.
Let me bust your head.
If God send you invoice for Guardian Angel.
Let me bust your head. The same pop artist will tell you that Holy Spirit gave them the song that they sang.
Yeah.
If you ask them, they'll tell you that the Spirit gave them the song. So which spirit? Is it the evil spirit?
Yeah. But no when I'm a secular artist.
So, but the
singing about
secular
drugs
artists,
and money
they do
and
split sheets. They do split sheets.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like we need to
charge elsewhere, not in the church.
Actually, outside the church. It should be a small sign in a church entrance.
So what I tell people is, I'm like, Sunday worship, Sunday choir administration is free. Enjoy it. The moment we move outside church, like I want to, like Tim Godfrey was doing his concert. His concert is one of the best produced in Nigeria, right?
Yeah.
It does, like, you do the whole production. When you go in, you're like, oh my God. People were upset with him because he was doing tables. I said, hello. Eco Hotel. Right? To rent a hotel alone for a day is about $50,000 or $100,000 for a day. You have to rent for 2 days. Who is going to pay that? He's going to wait for you to say, okay, please come and help me in church, donate, give me your widow's mite. For him to...
Wow.
But that show does not restrict you if you're a Christian or Muslim. Everybody can attend the show.
Yeah.
You know, because it is a production that you enjoy. So why shouldn't you pay for that? Oh, because it's gospel music.
How about the church?
The church too is very, 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 very complicit in this. Very complex.
Using the artist's work for their promotions and all that.
Yes, now then they'll not be wondering why the youths they are leaving the church. They are poor, they are hungry. That's why you cannot preach Jesus Christ is good to an hungry person. That's why they do operation and they are feeding every Sunday. That's why when you're a newcomer in church, they go give you rice, give you everything. Because you know that you cannot preach to you.
So church must pay royalties. They must look to pay royalties to the artists. The Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit said,
the person who Jesus took the fish and the bread from to multiply it, must collect royalties.
But do you actually believe and agree that should be the case?
So I think also in terms of like industry practice, I don't think the church should pay royalties because the church fundamentally is registered as a non-profit.
Right.
You know, so they don't make profit.
Right.
It's assumed they don't make profit. Whether they now do in practical term. But like they don't make profits, right? So they shouldn't be paying royalties. But like you see other gospel artists singing other people's song with so much confidence. They even now re-sing it, put it on their album.
Perform it everywhere.
Now you are now beginning to act like sons of perdition. Don't do that. Don't do that. That is actually very wrong.
Do you think it's? We've seen it with Love World Incorporated. They produce Sinach. They produce
Frank Edwards.
Pastor Peter Adifarasi.
Paul Adifarasi
also helped with.
That's my church.
What's the name of this man? His last album was. Travis Green came to the church to perform his last album with him.
Tim
Godfrey, right? Yes, Tim Godfrey. Do you think the church needs to step into the conversation in terms of producing our superstars from the gospel industry? Because it looks like some of the gospel musicians are struggling.
Not some, they are struggling because there's no funding. Because music, you're not going to come and put your music on Apple. Let me tell you a joke. One of my distributor friends said that. I'm sorry. Last week, she was like, anytime a gospel artist complains that their music is not being played, say, go and talk to the Holy Spirit. Tell the Holy Spirit to lay hands.
That's the best promo.
You know, so but the same. There are no special rules for you. You play with the same rules that the marketplace plays with. So if you want proper projection and playlist, you pay for it.
Promo.
So the biggest problem of the industry is that nobody is ready to fund. And the reason why nobody is ready to fund is because there's no business case. If you ask a gospel artist how do you make money, they tell you it's gifts, as you are led. It's as you are led in church. For example, when I first started going to House of Rock, first day I attended House of Rock was when I saw Pastor Nathaniel Bassey perform. Oh, sorry, minister. They said I should stop saying performing. Minister. And when he finished, Pastor Paul stood up and pointed to like 10 people in church and told them to donate. And I think then they raised like almost 20 million.
Wow.
So these were like 7 years ago.
20 million naira.
Yeah.
Well, before you continue the story, let me just sign out for those who are listening to us on +89.9 FM. If you want to have still the continuation of this conversation, you are still on 3 Music TV, as well. You can catch the podcast at 10 p.m. tonight on 3 Music TV or on our YouTube channel. On that note, for those who are on Plus FM, it's a bye for now. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. So like what do you call it? I saw 20 million in my head. Was like, oh more this business. Hey, make I go marry a gospel artist. Hey, say But that was the only time I've seen him do that.
Wow.
So my question is, the people that are relying on the spirit and the only laying of hands, is that a sustainable form of business? You're laughing. Is it? It's not. Because that's 7 years ago. That's the last time I saw my pastor do that. I personally saw him do that to say. But that was a catalyst for Pastor Nat then, because that's when he now released I think that album that had Emailer and whatnot. Right. So for me, it's like, how many people can you possibly do that?
Yeah.
But
how many times even?
Yeah, how many times? But if there's a system that an artist knows that. The only gospel record label I know now is the one that is it that has Judy K, GUC, Mercy Chinwo, like it's been doing it right
for time.
And even at that, you hear like people are like, he just likes money too much. He's too focused on this, and that's because pastor wants to call the artist to come and perform.
For free.
Minister for free. You don't provide security. Like, because you also know that gospel artists go with their band, like, of 8 people. So how do you want those other 8 people to feed?
Because of time, fine, let me ask you this. As a manager for a gospel artist, what do you make of because everything that you're saying right now, where you need to really find a fine balance between being led by the Spirit and also doing things as a business. The conversation will always come back to the gospel artists doing songs with secular artists. Where do you stand in that when it comes to a gospel artist, looking to really do the business side of music and thinks, okay, I want to either tap into the fan base of a secular artist, or the secular artist saying, look, I want to do a song with a gospel artist to tap into their fan base. Where do we, find a balance?
That's a conversation between you and the Holy Spirit too. I can't help you with that. So the way I work with my own gospel artists is literally I just wait for the Spirit. When the Spirit finish giving her the song, then me, I do my own work. I never interfere with the
creative process.
The creative process,
okay,
right? Because I believe that that's actually where the Holy Spirit plays, right? So the only thing I check is to make sure that you're not. Like now we're currently going through there's some hymn songs you used. Is it public domain? Is it royalty free? We're checking. Then I come in, make sure the producers sign the issue, because I know that at some point, I mean, we saw with Sinach how the song blew up.
Yeah,
your song can blow up. I don't want that the producer now comes and is now squeezing his face. That he's not making money, because everybody should make money,
right?
So that's where. But in terms of like creativity, I never influence. It's not like pop industry or the mainstream, I'll be like, oh, work with this person, work with that person. But in God, I don't put my mouth there. It's you and Holy Spirit.
Wow, Fosa, we've been talking to you for over an hour now. I mean,
Wow, this is the longest radio interview.
yeah, we squeezed a lot out of you.
love it.
We have to squeeze a lot out of you.
Thank you so
next
much.
holiday is in 33? She does 10 years. For
Yeah,
Baddest. Yeah, so once we have one holiday, let's get the best out of her. But let's wrap up with split sheets conversations and understand, just school us out of ignorance. Just school us a bit on how split sheets work, how they are, how you generate them.
All right, so split sheets basically is the agreement that shows who contributed what and what they are entitled to and their full details. So if you're looking for, say, example, a song called Olele, right?
Push the mic down a little bit. I want to see your face in saying that. Yeah. the viewers.
Yeah.
No,
So like if there's a song called Olele and like 5 of us wrote it, in 20 years' time, Olele is supposed to be played on a global stage, right? How do the people that want to use that song on a global stage, who do they pay? Where do they find them? What is supposed to be paid to who? Is this person getting 50%? Is this person getting 20%? That's what the split sheet is for, basically. So it's a simple agreement that just shows, you Serial, you have 20%, your physical address is this, your email address is this, you're assigned to this publisher, blah blah blah. Foza, you have 10% because you wrote the lyrics of the song, you have X percentage, you have that X percentage. So basically that's what split sheet is. We have different industries have different, like for example in America, if everybody is in the room, there's a system where it says everybody shares equally. Right. In Nigeria, for example, it's based on how much your contribution is. Right.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, like how much your contribution is.
Which kind of work you do?
Yeah, which kind of work you do. Now we go argue the
Or else
percentage.
I'm flying next to the sessions. Outside.
Yeah. So like one of the things like I tell like my African guys going abroad now is make sure that if the person know they contribute anything, chase them come out to the room.
The studio.
Chase them come out the room. If the person know registered, like that don't. Because in Nigeria, everybody go day. I go day, you go day,
Yeah.
But everybody,
and you need to give that person something.
yeah, that's how it works over there.
I saw it in the when they used the movie.
Really?
Before she
Everybody
records,
present in the
everybody,
studio.
only her and the producer.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's quite
so
important.
in that case, that means the split sheets is just for she and the producer.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
Yeah.
So that somebody doesn't come and say, "Why gave you that word? You wanted to use car, but I said bicycle."
Right,
What
right,
happened
right.
with Keche and
Kwame
Kwame
Eugene.
Eugene.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have a local case like that.
Okay.
2 different parties saying they both wrote a hit song.
A song, a chorus.
So in a situation, I mean, you were giving us an understanding, but in a situation where, have you heard of the Drake or Bradford?
Yes,
story?
I am.
So in a situation where 20 years ago, I mean, probably the split sheets conversation wasn't, that much of a big deal, and 20 years on the line, Drake has used a part of it. How do we resolve, or do we have standard conversations or agreements that you can fall on when we didn't sign?
The guy that is claiming that his voice was on it is going to have to come and prove it too. Because by prima facie, that's surface evidence. Obrafor owns the entire copyrights to that music that was used by Drake. So Obrafor is the legal party that can fight Drake. Then if you are coming to say that, you will prove it too.
In this case, how would he prove it?
That's for him and his lawyer to figure out. Like he has to
say the same thing over again, same way
Perhaps.
I said it.
He has to
Check my vocal cords.
maybe if you have people that were present there that can speak to it, you have corroborative witnesses. And most times, now, I tell my clients, record your session, put one phone there, make person do voice notes, just have visual
much
representation
evidence.
because anything can happen at any time.
Wow.
So most times, like when you finish a session, there's a session sheet that is signed that, okay, these are all the people that were in the studio and whatnot. So it's going to have an interesting time trying to prove that is the one. Drake and I went through the Drake and Obrafor issue. Most likely there will be a settlement out of court. Most likely. But it now depends on how much Drake is going to drop. But They kind of have something going.
To the parties involved who didn't have any agreement, producer, artist, everything else, no split sheet, and then now there's a settlement. What then applies to how the $10 million would be shared?
So like I think it's most likely the producer and Obrafo that straight up can share. Any other party is like you have to really come and prove your case, because just by when you go online and you check Spotify, this is how the law looks at it. On the surface, who are the parties that are attached to the work?
You mentioned the word. It's a prima
facie.
Prima
So it
facie.
means on the surface evidence.
Of
So on the surface evidence is Obrafo and the producer.
But
Okay.
is there X amount of money that someone can charge in relation to maybe a lawsuit? So still on this Obrafo and Drake and Manche issue, right? Can they say that, okay, there's a bracket that you can charge. You can't go beyond, let's say, the 10 million that they are requesting. Is there anything like that? Or anyone can request any amount of money based on how much they think it's worth?
You can flex as you go, man. You flex your flex. If you like say you want 100 million, flex, put down for there. The question now is if the court will give it to you.
Well,
I want to ask about post commissions. It's
we have
something
just a minute to go, guys.
Yeah, just 60 seconds. The talent managers. So you manage an artist, and then they get their first breakthrough. Well, life happens.
45 seconds.
Yeah, you move away and everything. What happens to them in the long term? Is there a way you could?
So post-time commissions cover for that.
Yes,
so
what is post-time?
Yeah, so post-time commission is that after I've worked and invested, I didn't make it during the term. So I have an extra 2 years, 3 years to ensure that anything you make after those 3 years, based on the sweats that I've done, I can make X percentage of it. So that's the concept behind sunset clause post-time commission.
So you put in your contract
Yes.
with the artist.
Yeah, you have to put that in your contract. Just before we sign out, so my book is called So Far So Foza. If you go on my Instagram handle, you find the link to buy it. It's in Ghana. It's going to be with my friend Abungo in Ghana. If you want to purchase it, reach out. Let's have a conversation. Let's grow. Africa is the next big thing. Don't let them take our property and colonize us again. Thank you.
A lot
very
of
much.
Ghanaian lawyers are looking
Well,
for you. Young Ghanaian
after
lawyers
this
are looking
conversation,
for you,
I've been staring at the roughness in myself, Lenny, and Cyril's hair. And if I'm able to prove that I brought this hairstyle,
Hello.
real good money.
It takes medication at 10,
So,
since we've gone over 10.
That's why.
so I'm going to prove and sue Lenny about the $500 million.
Lenny, who has been doing this
And
since
then
2016.
it's all about evidence, right? And I can resign. Because when I was a kid, I never combed my hair. On that note, Foza, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you
a
so
guest.
much for having me, guys. I really enjoyed this interview.
Yes,
Happy
it's been
you
a great
did.
one. We really like that. So, your socials again, just
At Foza Doza everywhere. FOZADOZA everywhere at Foza Doza.
okay at Foza Doza. You find her. So, are you responsive with your DMs?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Also, I was going to ask for a telephone number then.
No, I respond to my DMs.
Okay.
I respond a lot too.
Okay.
But just don't say hi and leave it. You're not trying to toast me. I'm not going to answer you.
Period. That's
Period.
Good. Like,
Anyway.
State your cause.
All right.
We
so
are
thank you.
vibes.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been good having this conversation with
Thank
you.
you,
Looking forward
guys.
to another, opportunity when you definitely step foot in Ghana.
I
Thank you
would.
very much. Our time is up. We are out of here. Don't forget to catch a repeat of this tonight at 10 p.m. and on our socials on YouTube and snippets as well across all the platforms. It's Jay, Lenny, Olele, and Cyril, and we are.
Yeah.
have a good day.